Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about big companies and lessons. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what would you say are the most important takeaways from from really big IT companies? So the short answer is innovation and expectations. So that's kind of vague, so I'm going to have to elaborate a little bit. So one of the things that I see quite a lot of software developers do, which I think is a major mistake, and it is something that I see people do over and over, is that they mimic the technical decisions and the considerations and the mindset of, if you will, of product deliveries and product development they basically mimic the exact same thing Facebook is doing, Google is doing, Amazon is doing, etc., etc. And that is sort of like a young entrepreneur trying to behave and live the lifestyle of Richard Branson or Bill Gates or whichever extremely rich business person that you can imagine, right? It is absolutely ludicrous. It is the dumbest thing that you can possibly do. And it is actually a testament, at least for me, to this to that people are still people, even if they have an advanced degree or even if they don't, but people are still people. You can always sell somebody something. Always. And the reason why I say this is because just as with a young entrepreneur trying to behave like Richard Branson, it is for any reasonable person, you will see that it's ludicrous because they have vastly different situations. And the same thing goes for Google or Facebook or your little small company, which most likely statistically you're working for a mid-sized to fairly large corporation, but not the sort of size of when we're talking about IT development as the top IT companies. And for people to have this idea that, oh, we're just going to do what Google does. We're going to use microservices, we're going to invest heavily in infrastructure, and we're going to have site reliability engineers, and we're going to have this and that and so forth. You don't have these sorts of resources, and neither did they when they started. They didn't. What they had was a small autonomous team of people who were dedicated to solving a problem and a shitty product, because everybody has a shitty product when they start out if you compare it to most of what's already out there, because that's the difference between being a newcomer to a market and being the great success. The great success simply has had a good idea with a small team of dedicated people and improved upon in an iterative fashion on their core product to a point where people actually started loving it. That is what Google did, that is what Facebook did, that is what every single one of these major IT companies has done. And the ludicrous part is when people think that I'm going to, in my current situation where I'm right now, when I'm in the starting days of my company, or when my company is a fraction of the size and has a fraction of the success of these companies, now I'm going to mimic all of these things. No. What you should take away is the learnings that this company has gone through and apply it, or rather to pick the parts that are applicable to you here today, right now, and that actually gives you a benefit. And this is the difference between making an informed technical decision. It doesn't even have to be a technical one. It can be just a management one or whichever, right? And just jumping on the hype train. If you buy, because remember guys, these companies, like especially Google, these are companies who sell IT products. So if you jump on every single thing they're doing, you're basically no better than a person who sits in front of a TV shop or like your television buying products from some shitty network. It's the same thing. You're doing the same thing. You have to really Be an informed consumer. I never thought I would say that to programmers, but that's what you need to be. You need to be an informed consumer. You need to look at what they did, what they did when they started out, what they're doing today, what's working, and what you can learn from what they have done so that you can apply it to your own life and move forward. It's very similar to having a mentor or a guide of some sort. Someone who went out into the deep end first, checked it out a little bit, found something, and now they're benefiting from that. Now you can't just copy what they did and then expect that you're going to have the same result, especially not when you haven't gone through that journey. But what you can do is to get inspired, learn from the innovations and all of the different things that they did, and take that with you to make your own journey out into the deep end much more stable and safer. That's one of the most important things that you can take away from these big success cases. Look at where they are today and where they started and how their journey looked, and try to derive useful information from that. And the second thing is the expectations. So what I mean by expectations is that you and I, for better or for worse, live in a world where consumers associate different services with quality and expectations on what a given type of service should deliver. As an example is, to make a very silly analogy, if you go into, say, a McDonald's, then you expect that you should be able to order a soda and a burger. If you go into another burger place, you expect the same sort of thing. You should expect that you can get a soda and a burger. That is this, and you may see like Burger King and all these other franchises, they mimic the same. They have a different product, or like they have deviations in the product, but they're still selling burgers. And the experiences going into one burger place and another burger place has quite a lot of common elements. You wouldn't go into a burger place and expect to be able to order a pizza. Well, maybe if you're in America, or I'm not sure, but very few people, at least in my world, in part of the world, would expect to be able to order a pizza in a burger place, because you go there to get a really nice, or to get a burger at least. And the same thing is true in IT, where if you develop a product, it doesn't matter how amazing it is, how innovative it is, if it doesn't meet the expectations that people have already been conditioned to by other competitors or by other franchises. An example is the gaming industry, where if you make a game that is a mashup of different other titles, quite a lot of people might actually just look at your nice new game and say, hey, you know what, this is just like that game but shittier, or this is they're gonna compare it to other titles. Even though your game is just fine by itself, they're still going to compare it. And that's the thing that you're fighting. That's the thing. These are the expectations. My favorite analogy to this is that if you invented a new smartphone or a new mobile phone today, and you made it absolutely amazing, even if it has the best connection speeds and so forth, if you didn't have support for texting, for text messaging, nobody would buy it, because the expectation is today that every single phone should have the option of texting people. And that's the expectation. This is the limit. This is the bar, if you will, that these big IT companies are putting on you. So when they are producing things, they are conditioning millions and millions of people into thinking that, oh yeah, if you have a product that is in this type of category, you should have about these features. These are the core features, which means that if you want to create something that is similar to that, now you have to meet these expectations. You may not have to have all the features, but there are some core ones that people are going to expect from you. And it's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing and a bad thing. It gives you a blueprint roughly for how you're going to structure a project to get some sort of success with it, but it also puts more pressure on the quality or the amount of work, at least, that you have to put into that project before people are going to think that this is something that is actually usable. So what I want you to take away from this is that the biggest learnings that you can take away from these major IT companies is, number one, the innovation, their journey. What did they do right? And try to figure out what they're doing today and what they did when they started out, and how they, and during their journey, all the decisions that they had to make, and try to apply that to yourself. Don't try to just copy paste what they're selling today, because you're not in their position. Don't try to be a billionaire if you're not a billionaire. Try to figure out how a person without any money or anything in the world came from nothing and became a billionaire. That's the thing that is interesting to you, unless you are a billionaire today. And the second thing is expectations. These major IT projects or product companies, they have developed a suite of products, and they are the companies that condition quite a lot of the population of in this world to expecting a certain level of quality and a certain amount of features in the products that they are selling, the digital products that they want, right? Which means that you can use that information to roughly know what you have to have in terms of features on your innovative product in order to sell it to these people. And that is a good thing and a bad thing, because you need to often deliver or work harder to actually meet these expectations, but at the very least you have a rough idea of what's going to work and what's not going to work. Because these companies, when they first did it for the very first time, they had a lot of trial and error just figuring out these base features. So they have already kind of paved the way for you, and that is the way that you should look at these companies. You should look at them as a pathfinder who went before you, has shown you, given you a few tips and tricks that you can apply to your own journey, and that's the way, and now you're free to make your own mistakes and your own discoveries on your personal journey. Have a great day.